Coming home from a business trip, I heard frantic pounding from our basement. I smashed the padlock and found my husband, filthy, dehydrated, half delirious. He'd been locked down there for 3 days. When I asked who did it, he said, "Your daughter and her new boyfriend." Then he told me what they were planning for tomorrow morning. If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe, we post one every day. Let me take you back. I'm Helen Carter, 54, and I thought our family was solid. My daughter, Lily, 28, was the kind of woman people admired, smart, polished, thriving in her marketing job. My husband, Tom, 56, ran a small construction company. We lived in a quiet, friendly neighborhood where porch lights glowed warm and neighbors waved on evening walks. 3 months ago, everything shifted. Lily brought home Shane, 25, tattooed, restless, with a stare that felt too long and too empty. She adored him instantly. He had no job, no car, and no urgency to change either of those facts. Every concern I raised was brushed off. "Mom, he just needs someone who believes in him," she'd say. What Shane needed, I thought, was a work ethic. But arguing with Lily in love was like arguing with thunder. Red flags kept piling up. Tom once caught Shane rummaging through his office, drawers open, files disturbed. Shane claimed he was looking for a pen. Neighbors later told me they'd seen him creeping around our house at midnight, even when Lily wasn't home. But the worst was Lily herself. Little by little, her warmth curdled into hostility. Family dinners became tense battlegrounds while Shane sat silently beside her like a shadow she protected. 2 weeks before my trip, I was preparing for a week-long conference. I asked Lily if she and Shane wanted to stay over and keep Tom company. The quick look they exchanged should have set off sirens. "Actually, Mom," Lily said brightly, "we thought this would be the perfect time to surprise Dad with the basement renovation he's always wanted." It sounded thoughtful. Too thoughtful. Lily wasn't the renovation type. She once panicked over changing a smoke detector battery. But I was relieved they were making an effort, so I ignored the unease in my stomach. I left for Seattle with a kiss and a smile, never imagining I'd just walked out of a trap. The conference went perfectly, a packed room, industry praise, even a job offer in New York. I called home daily, but Tom didn't answer. I assumed he was busy or covered in sawdust. The silence should have terrified me. Tom never ignored calls. I arrived home at 2:47 a.m., exhausted but excited. The house was dark. Our bed was untouched. I thought he'd fallen asleep in the basement, working on the surprise. Then I heard the pounding. The basement door had a massive padlock I had never seen. I grabbed a hammer and smashed it open. The moment I stepped inside, the air turned cold. Tom was chained to a support beam. Same clothes. Same shoes. Same man I'd kissed goodbye a week ago, now sunken-eyed, trembling, barely able to whisper. "Who did this?" I choked out. "Lily and Shane." My world split open. "They were going to bury me alive tomorrow," he rasped. "Make it look like I collapsed while working." I shook my head, refusing to accept it, until I saw the evidence. A freshly dug rectangle in the concrete floor. Bags of quicklime. Tarps. Tools lined up in a neat, horrifying row. All waiting. "They were planning to kill both of us," Tom whispered. "Your accident was supposed to happen tomorrow night when you drove home." My knees buckled. Tom explained everything, Shane bragging about doing this before, Lily discussing insurance payouts, the alibis they were establishing all week. They checked on him every few hours, just enough to keep him alive. It was Lily who watched him suffer. I helped him upstairs, every step stoking a deeper rage. My daughter, my bright, sweet Lily, had let something dark in. Or worse, had become the darkness herself. We needed proof. Real proof. Shane kept a notebook, a meticulous journal of their plans. If we could find it, the police would have no choice but to listen. By noon, we had a plan. Tom would stay home and act normal. I would go to Shane's apartment under the pretense of surprising Lily early. I looked in the mirror before I left. My reflection didn't look scared. It looked ready. The woman staring back at me in the mirror looked like someone who paid her taxes early, baked for charity drives, and sent thank you cards. Professional. Warm. Safe. No one would ever guess she was preparing to break into a criminal's apartment. Good. That's exactly what I needed. Shane Fletcher lived in Riverside Apartments, the kind of place where nobody looked twice at their neighbors and everyone minded their own business. Perfect for men with skeletons, and bodies, in their closets. I parked across the street, watching the entrance, the security cameras, the people coming and going. At 2:15 p.m., my moment arrived. An older woman with too many grocery bags struggled through the front door. I hurried to help, chatting about the weather while following her inside. "Are you visiting someone, dear?" she asked as we waited for the elevator. "My daughter," I said smoothly. "She's not feeling well. I brought her soup." She smiled, touched. "That's sweet. I hope she gets better soon." I stepped off on the third floor. Shane's apartment, 3B, looked silent. I knocked softly. "Lily. Honey. It's Mom. I'm home early." Nothing. I tried the doorknob, expecting resistance. It turned. Of course Shane didn't lock his door. Predators often think they're untouchable. I slipped inside and locked it behind me. The apartment looked temporary, like someone always ready to bolt. What caught my eye immediately were 3 spiral notebooks stacked neatly on the coffee table, each labeled with a different name and year. Patricia James, 2019. Richard Alvarez, 2021. Tom Carter, 2023. My heart lurched, but my hand stayed steady as I opened Tom's notebook. Every page was a blueprint for murder. Lily's work hours. Tom's routines. Entry points to our home. A hand-drawn diagram of our basement, showing exactly where they planned to bury him. A date. A time. Final steps. But the earlier notebooks made my blood run cold. Patricia James, a widow who'd vanished in Phoenix. Richard Alvarez, a father whose disappearance was written off as a midlife crisis. Inside each notebook were photos, prep lists, clippings, and, most horrifying, girls. Young women who'd stood beside Shane in each crime. Different faces, different years, all connected by one common thread: daughters helping him kill their own parents. This wasn't romance gone wrong. This was a system. I started photographing everything: pages, dates, photos, patterns, anything police could use before Shane destroyed it. Then I froze. Voices. Familiar voices. "I still think we should have waited," Lily said in the hallway. "What if she gets home early?" "Relax," Shane chuckled. "Your mom doesn't land until 6. Plenty of time to clean up your dad." Clean up. Like he was a broken appliance. I darted into the closet, the only place deep enough to hide, wedging myself between leather jackets that reeked of cheap cologne and cigarette smoke. The moment I shut the door, the apartment opened. "So what's the new timeline?" Lily asked. "Easy," Shane said. "We take care of your dad at 3, make the scene look like an accident. Tonight, when your mom comes home, she panics, rushes to call 911, and, well." He laughed softly. "Accidents happen." My hand covered my mouth as I trembled with rage. "How many people have you done this to?" Lily whispered. Plenty, Shane replied, cold and proud. You'd be shocked how little people question a death when money's on the line. Families fall apart faster than you think. He listed names. States. Daughters who had helped him. And how any troublemakers had accidents too. My daughter stood there listening, choosing him over us. When they finally left, I slipped out, heart pounding, and ran to my car. I called Tom first. They're coming right now, I gasped. Get out. Go to the police. Just get out. What about the evidence? I photographed everything. We have enough to bury him forever. But as I sped home, ignoring speed limits and stop signs, reality sank in. We had pictures. But Shane could burn those notebooks in minutes. And Tom's chains, the padlock, the grave, they could vanish just as fast. Lily would claim her father was confused from dehydration. Shane would charm and lie. And without solid evidence, the system might believe them. I dialed Detective Sarah Morrison, a childhood friend who now worked with the county sheriff's office. Sarah, I need you at my house now. Lives are on the line. Helen, slow down. What's? My daughter is trying to kill us. I have proof. I need you to see it before they destroy it. Silence. Then. I'm on my way. When I pulled into our driveway, Shane's beat-up Honda was speeding away. Lily sat in the passenger seat, pale as ash. When she saw me, her eyes widened with shock, and something worse. Guilt. Panic. Tom met me inside, gripping a bloody towel against his arm. They tried, he said. He came at me with a syringe. I fought back. Got cut, but I got the syringe. He handed me a plastic evidence bag, a needle filled with clear liquid. When Sarah arrived, Tom explained everything, the attack, the syringe, Lily standing guard while Shane tried to inject him with what they promised would be peaceful. Sarah's disbelief faded the moment she saw the photos on my phone. I know this case, she said quietly, staring at Patricia James's name. We suspected foul play, but the daughter insisted Patricia had wandered off. She didn't, I said. Shane groomed her. Just like he did Lily. Sarah made calls. Officers searched Shane's apartment and found more notebooks, 6 new targets, all daughters he planned to recruit next. They also found their flight itinerary, 2 one-way tickets to Mexico City. Departure, 11:47 p.m. tonight. We can catch them, Sarah said. But a colder resolve settled over me. What if, I said slowly, they never make it to the airport? Sarah stiffened. Helen, you're not talking about street justice. I'm talking about stopping a predator who's groomed and murdered through 3 states. I'm talking about protecting other parents before he turns their daughters into killers. I'm talking about the kind of man who doesn't stop until he's forced to. Tom touched my shoulder gently, the man who'd nearly been buried alive hours earlier. And I realized something. If we didn't end this now, Shane would keep going. And he would take Lily, my little girl, down with him. Margaret, I know you're furious. I am too. But we have to do this the right way. David kept saying it like repetition would make it true. The right way, meaning trials, plea deals, loopholes. The kind of justice that puts someone like Derek away for a decade, maybe, and lets a manipulated accomplice slip out with time served. The kind of justice that lets predators plan their comeback. You're right, I told him. Out loud, I agreed. Inside, I was already building something darker. While Sarah coordinated the airport stakeout and David gave his official statement, I thought about those plane tickets Derek bought, about how easy it would be to intercept 2 panicked fugitives before they ever reached Mexico. Some things were too important to leave to the system. But the airport trap fizzled. Chloe and Derek never showed. Either they had backup plans or they were hiding somewhere close, waiting for the right moment to vanish. Smart money says they're already gone, Sarah told me the next morning over coffee. He's done this before. He knows how to disappear. But she didn't know Derek like I did, not after reading his notes, not after seeing what he'd molded Chloe into. He's not gone, I said. He's regrouping. For what? Look at what he nearly pulled off, $2 million in insurance payouts, a house worth almost $500,000, David's business assets. People like Derek don't walk away from a jackpot. His ego won't let him accept defeat. And Chloe? She's in more danger than she realizes. For 3 days, I played the role of grateful survivor. I spoke to local news about trusting your instincts. I hugged David for the cameras. I thanked the police department like they'd saved us from a lightning strike instead of a premeditated massacre. In private, I hunted. Derek made one fatal mistake in his sprint out of our house. He dropped his phone. It slid under the kitchen island where Sarah's team eventually found it, but not before I memorized his contacts. 12 names. 12 women, all young, all vulnerable, all fitting Derek's preferred profile. Not victims yet, not exactly. More like, recruits. I started with the top of the list. A woman named Julia Hale in Phoenix. According to Derek's notes, Julia helped him kill her stepmother 5 years earlier. If Derek kept contact with any helper, it would be her. She answered on the third ring. Hello? Julia, this is Margaret Sullivan. We need to talk. A long pause. Then, in a trembling voice. He said you were dead. Well, I'm not. And unless you want to join him in federal prison, we should meet. She agreed. 2 hours later, I sat across from her in a Phoenix coffee shop. Young, polished, pretty, exactly Derek's type. Exactly the kind of brokenness he liked to shape into something useful. He said you and your husband died in a crash, she whispered. He said Chloe was devastated but coping. Derek lies, I said. About everything. Including your stepmother. Julia's face collapsed. She wasn't cruel. She tried so hard after my dad died. But Derek, he twisted everything. Where is he now? I don't know. He called a couple days ago asking for money. Said he and your daughter were in trouble. I told him I couldn't help anymore. Smart. But listen carefully, Derek will be back. People like him don't leave loose ends. When he reaches out again, you call me immediately. I handed her a card with my number and Sarah's direct line. He'll kill me if he finds out I talked to you. He'll kill you anyway. Eventually. The drive home gave me too much time to think. Derek was injured, low on resources, and furious. That made him unpredictable, but also sloppy. David was waiting in the kitchen. Sarah called, he said. They tracked Derek's credit card to a hotel in Tucson. They're coordinating with local police. Finally. And Chloe? With him. They'll both be in custody tonight. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow. 3 days of preparing myself for revenge, and it was ending with a boring arrest. Derek would lawyer up. Claim Chloe was brainwashed. Bargain for a reduced sentence by exposing other crimes. But fate has a sense of timing. At 11:30 p.m., Sarah called. We got them. No bail. Chloe saying Derek manipulated her. Jury can sort it out. I hung up. Stared out at the dark yard. Tomorrow, I'd face my daughter in jail. I'd try to understand how she'd followed a stranger into murder. I'd probably end up fighting for a sentence that didn't destroy her life. But tonight, I let myself breathe. It was over. Except it wasn't. 3 weeks later, while Derek sat in county jail awaiting trial, Julia Hale was found dead in her Phoenix apartment. Single gunshot to the head. The medical examiner put her death at 5 days before I met with her. Which meant the woman I sat with wasn't Julia Hale. Which meant someone in Derek's network impersonated her. Which meant they now knew exactly what I knew. Who I was. What I'd uncovered. My blood went cold. I called Sarah immediately. Margaret, it's 2 in the. Julia Hale is dead. She's been dead for days. The woman I met wasn't her. Silence. The kind of silence where gears are turning fast. Are you sure? I met with an imposter. By 3 a.m., Sarah was at our house with 2 detectives and a security specialist. Our phones were monitored. Our home placed under surveillance. David and I were officially under protection. Detective Alvarez asked, "Describe the woman again." Mid-20s. Brown hair. Around 5'6". Nervous. Checked her phone constantly. East Coast accent. Small scar on her left hand. Wore a silver bracelet with initials. Maybe MT. Sarah and Alvarez exchanged a look. They showed me photos of young women. One face made my stomach drop. That's her. Her name is Monica Torres, Alvarez said quietly. She's not one of Derek's victims. She's his partner. They've been working together for at least 5 years. Everything snapped into place. Derek didn't act alone. Monica scouted the daughters. Derek seduced them, manipulated them, trained them. Together, they destroyed families across states. How many? I asked. At least 15 that we can confirm. 15 families. 15 lives wiped out for money. Where is she now? I asked. Unknown. But one thing's clear, your survival disrupted their pattern. You're a threat. She'll want to eliminate that threat. Waiting wasn't an option. Over the next week, while David returned to work under police protection, I formed my own plan. Monica had made a mistake, revealing the operation was still alive. And people who need to protect their secrets always come crawling back to tie up loose ends. I started with Derek's contact list. I called each number, pretending to be a social worker following up on family welfare cases. Most led nowhere. 3 didn't. A woman in Denver mentioned the other lady who called last week asking similar questions, the same script I used. Monica's script. Another woman in Miami gave answers too rehearsed, her accent off for someone who supposedly lived in Florida. Then came the third. A Las Vegas number registered to a man named Daniel Ruiz. I dialed. "Hello?" a woman said. I knew that voice. "This is Margaret Sullivan," I said calmly. "We met in Phoenix." A long, cold breath on the other end. "Well," Monica said at last, "I wondered when you'd call." "I'm sure you did. Now let's talk about what you really want." "What I want," she said, voice like a knife sliding out of its sheath, "is for you to stop interfering in things you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I said. "You and Derek have been murdering parents for their money." And for the first time, Monica Torres went silent, not with surprise. With calculation. Because she knew the game had changed. "Margaret, I know what you're thinking. I know how angry you are. I'm angry too. But there's a proper way to handle this." David repeated it like a mantra, the proper way: trials, appeals, plea deals. The system that could put Derek away for a decade and let a manipulated accomplice walk free after a fraction of that time. The system that would allow predators to plan a return. "You're right," I said. Out loud, I agreed. Inside, my mind was already moving faster than anyone could keep up. While Sarah coordinated the airport stakeout and David gave his official statement, I focused on Derek's tickets to Mexico. One wrong move and they'd vanish forever. Some things couldn't be left to the justice system. The airport trap failed. Chloe and Derek never showed. Either they had alternate plans, or they were lying low, waiting for the heat to die down. They're probably long gone, Sarah said over coffee. Derek knows how to disappear. I shook my head. No. He wouldn't abandon Chloe. And he didn't leave all those notebooks behind for nothing. He's regrouping. Planning something else. And Chloe is still in danger. For 3 days, I pretended to be the grateful survivor. Interviews, photos, staged hugs for the cameras. Privately, I hunted Derek's phone. A simple mistake, but it gave me a contact list, 12 names, all women vulnerable to manipulation, all potential accomplices or future victims. I started with the first, Lena Hart, Phoenix. She'd helped Derek murder her stepmother years ago. If he kept in touch with any of his helpers, it would be her. She answered on the third ring. Hello. Lena, this is Margaret Sullivan. We need to meet. A long pause. Then, her voice trembled. He said you were dead. Well, I'm not. And unless you want to join him in prison, you should meet me. 2 hours later, we sat across from each other in a downtown cafe. Young, attractive, fragile, the exact type Derek exploited. He said my stepmother's death was necessary, she whispered. Derek lies, I said. About everything. Including your stepmother. Lena's face fell. He called 2 days ago. Said he and your daughter were in trouble. I refused to help. Good. But remember, he'll come back. And when he does, call me immediately. I handed her my card with my number and Sarah's direct line. Driving home, I realized Derek was desperate, reckless, and dangerous, but also sloppy. David was waiting. Sarah called. They tracked Derek to a Tucson hotel. Local police are involved. And Chloe. With him. They'll both be in custody tonight. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt hollow. Days of planning, and it would end in a standard arrest. Lawyers, plea deals, negotiations. But then fate intervened. 3 weeks later, while Derek waited in jail, Lena Hart was found dead. Execution style, in her apartment. 5 days before our meeting. The woman I had met wasn't Lena. Someone in Derek's network had impersonated her. I called Sarah immediately. Margaret. Lena Hart is dead. The woman I met wasn't her. By 3 a.m., Sarah, 2 detectives, and a security specialist were at our home. Our phones were monitored. Our house under surveillance. Detective Alvarez asked, describe her again. Mid-20s. Brown hair. Nervous. Checked her phone constantly. Small scar on left hand. Silver bracelet with initials, MT. Alvarez exchanged a glance with Sarah. That's her. Monica Torres, Alvarez said. She's not a victim. She's Derek's partner. They've been working together for years. Everything clicked. Derek didn't act alone. Monica scouted, manipulated, recruited, and trained accomplices. Families destroyed across states. How many? I asked. At least 15 we've confirmed. Where is she now? Unknown. But you've become a threat. She'll want to eliminate it. Waiting wasn't an option. I began calling Derek's contacts again, posing as a social worker. Most calls went nowhere. 3 were revealing, 2 women already suspicious of outreach, and a Las Vegas number, Monica herself. I dialed. Hello. This is Margaret Sullivan. We met in Phoenix. A long, chilling silence. Finally, Monica spoke. I wondered when you'd call. What do you want? Stop interfering in what you don't understand. You and Derek have been murdering parents for money, I said calmly. She paused. Calculated. Realized she had lost the advantage. You're right, she said. But one wrong move, and everyone you love dies. I stayed calm. I already turned evidence over. The network is exposed. Police are aware. The FBI is involved. Even if you act now, it won't matter. Federal investigations, insurance fraud, every route you planned is compromised. Her confidence faltered. There's a third option, I continued quietly. Help me find the remaining victims. Names, locations, evidence. In return, I'll advocate for consideration of cooperation agreements. She studied me for a long time. Then, instead of contacting Derek, she dialed 911. This is Monica Torres. I'm surrendering. I demand to speak with FBI agent Sarah Chen, and I want full immunity for cooperation. It hit me. Monica Torres wasn't just a killer. She was a federal agent undercover for years, dismantling the network from within. I'd almost blown her cover. Police sirens approached. Monica raised her badge as officers entered. I sat on a loading dock, trying to process it. Agent Sarah Chen arrived. Younger than expected, intense, sharp. You've been conducting your own investigation, she said. I was trying to save my family, I admitted. You did exceptional work, Agent Chen said. Your photos of Derek's notebooks provided evidence we lacked for years. She showed me a tablet. An intricate chart of the organization, the Inheritance Club. 30 operatives across 12 states. Derek at the center, Monica leading another branch. Each branch recruited young adults with financial pressures, targeting wealthy families. How many killed? I whispered. Confirmed 87, suspected closer to 150 over 8 years. Chloe was recruited about 4 months ago. They'd been tracking your family for nearly a year. It all made sense. Chloe's feelings for Derek, her fascination, her fear, it was all manipulation. Where is she now? I asked. County jail. Cooperating. She's a victim too, forced into a role she didn't fully understand. And prosecution. Depends on what she knew and what she did independently, and her cooperation. Agent Torres approached. No longer cold, calculating. You called Ashley Chen's number, she said. I answered, testing your abilities. You're smart, motivated, dangerous, but to yourself and other families. You forced them to accelerate planned murders, Agent Chen added. Because of your evidence, we prevented at least 6 deaths in the last weeks. You saved lives, but you also put yourself at tremendous risk. I exhaled, realizing the magnitude. My actions had been reckless, but effective. I watched Monica Torres, the woman who had terrified me for days, now in custody. How long until the entire network is dismantled? I asked. Detective Sarah Morrison replied, we arrested 15 yesterday. With Derek and Monica cooperating, we expect 20 more arrests within the week. The leadership structure is complex, but we've been mapping it for years. Families who lost loved ones will finally get answers. The afternoon passed in a blur of statements and evidence transfers. I handed over everything I'd gathered, answered questions about Chloe's behavior, and shared character references for David and myself. But my mind couldn't stop racing. Derek would spend life in federal prison. The network would be dismantled. Families would get closure. And Chloe, my daughter, who had nearly been manipulated into murder, what would become of her? Agent Sarah Chen approached as we wrapped up. "There's something you need to know about your daughter," she said. "What?" "The night Derek tried to use that syringe on David, Chloe called 911. I stared at her. "What?" "The call was disconnected before she could speak, but we have the recording. She said, 'I think someone's going to get hurt.' She was trying to stop it." For the first time in weeks, I felt something besides rage. Maybe there was hope for rebuilding our relationship. Maybe some betrayals could be forgiven, if not forgotten. 3 days later, I sat in a sterile conference room at the county jail, waiting to see Chloe for the first time since that night. My hands were steady, but my heart raced. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. Pale, hollow-eyed, thinner. But when she saw me, she broke down. "Mom, I'm so sorry," she whispered, shaking. Part of me wanted to stay angry, but I saw my little girl, the one who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. "Tell me everything, Chloe," I said. Through tears, she explained Derek's manipulation. How he started by listening to her complaints about money, independence, and our perceived control over her life. Slowly, he turned those frustrations into resentment, then into justifications for extreme action. "And the murder plan?" I asked softly. "He said it would look like an accident. Dad would just go to sleep and not wake up, or a quick car accident. No one would suffer. You knew what you were doing. You helped him chain your father." "I know. But he made it seem logical. He promised Dad would be fine, that I was just helping set up an accident scene. I thought it was temporary." "When did you realize it was wrong?" "When I saw Dad's face in the basement. He was awake. He was begging me to help him. That's when I knew it was real, and I was trapped. Derek said if I refused, he'd use recordings and photos to blame me entirely." "And the syringe?" "At the last moment, I tried to call 911. He grabbed the phone. But part of me was still trying to protect Dad." Hearing that, I felt a surge of cautious hope. She hadn't been completely lost to Derek's influence. Agent Chen confirmed Chloe's call. She was trying to stop it. She's a victim too, manipulated by someone skilled in psychological coercion. We sat in silence for a few minutes, letting the weight of it sink in. Then Chloe asked the question I'd been dreading. "Do you think you can ever forgive me?" "I don't know," I admitted. "It will take time, for me, for David. But I also see that you were a victim. A victim who almost became a killer, but who still has a chance to make things right." David's eyes softened. "Is Dad okay?" "Physically, yes. Emotionally, he's struggling. Trust will take time." "I've destroyed everything," Chloe whispered. "Not everything. Some things. Innocence, trust, but we still have family. And if you're willing to take responsibility and get help, maybe we can rebuild." Chloe nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'll testify against anyone in the organization. I'll do whatever it takes." Weeks later, Derek pleaded guilty to all charges. Life in prison, no possibility of parole. Chloe's charges were reduced to conspiracy and fraud. If she completed a psychological rehabilitation program and cooperated fully, she could be free in 3 to 5 years. We began therapy together, Chloe, David, and me. She explained the manipulation techniques Derek used, validating her frustrations, isolating her, gradually escalating to justifications for harm. She recognized now how close she'd come to destroying her family. "Everything Derek told me about you," she said, looking at us both, "was designed to isolate me from my support system. You weren't controlling me, you were protecting me. And I almost destroyed that." David leaned forward. "What happened in the basement was terrifying. Trust will take time, but we can work on it. We want to find a way back to trusting you." I have to earn that trust, Chloe said quietly. Yes, but your willingness to do the work matters. Over the following months, Chloe rebuilt her life. Therapy, community service, reconnecting with old friends, and a new purpose, helping families avoid the kind of manipulation she endured. She worked with the FBI, sharing insights into how predators exploit family vulnerabilities. David and I worked on our own healing, processing trauma, strengthening our bond. One evening, he said, "Do you think we failed as parents? Made Chloe vulnerable?" "We did our best," I replied. Derek was skilled at finding vulnerabilities in any young adult. What matters now is how we move forward. A year later, the FBI informed us the Inheritance Club was dismantled. 47 people convicted. Over 100 murders solved across 15 states. Our evidence had been pivotal. Chloe completed her rehabilitation program, probation terminated. She chose to stay close to home. "I spent so much time running from family, thinking independence meant rejecting those who care," she said at dinner. "I don't want to make that mistake again." We were healing. Scars remained, but so did hope. David reached across the table and gently held Chloe's hand. "You'll always be our daughter," he said softly. "No matter what happened, no matter the choices you made, that will never change. I know that now. I just wish I had understood it sooner." That night, as David and I cleaned up after dinner, I reflected on everything we had endured, the fear, the betrayal, and the slow, painstaking process of forgiveness. "Do you ever regret not having Derek killed instead of arrested?" David asked quietly. I paused, considering my answer. There were moments when I thought of all the families he had harmed, the danger he had posed to us, and the lives he nearly destroyed. But I realized that killing him wouldn't have dismantled the network. It wouldn't have saved the potential victims they were still targeting. And it wouldn't have given Chloe the chance to return to us as herself. Justice mattered more than revenge. Justice restored our daughter. Revenge would have made us no better than him. 3 years later, I wrote a book about our experience. The Basement, Surviving a Family Murder Plot became a bestseller, helping law enforcement identify signs of inheritance-based murder conspiracies. Chloe wrote the epilogue. "My mother saved my life twice, first by uncovering Derek's plan, and second by choosing forgiveness over revenge. She gave me a chance to become the person I was meant to be instead of the killer Derek tried to make me." Not every family receives a second chance. I am grateful every day that ours did. Derek died in federal prison 18 months later, stabbed by another inmate with a personal vendetta. I felt no satisfaction, only relief that he would never harm another family. Monica Torres left the FBI and now works as a consultant, helping families recognize financial manipulation and inheritance fraud. Every year, she sends us a Christmas card thanking us for our unexpected role in bringing down one of the most sophisticated murder networks in modern American history. Chloe is engaged to a social worker she met through her nonprofit work, someone who knew her story, understood her vulnerability to manipulation, and admired her courage to recover from it. Their wedding is next month. David will walk her down the aisle, and I will probably cry through the entire ceremony, but these will be tears of joy. Tears for a family that refused to let evil destroy us. Tears for a daughter who found her way back from the darkness. Some stories end with revenge. Ours ended with justice, forgiveness, and love. Because sometimes love is stronger than betrayal. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do against evil is to refuse to let it turn you into someone you are not. Derek tried to destroy our family, but instead, he showed us how precious it truly was, and that lesson made us stronger than any manipulation ever could.